Well, what is interesting is the amount of detail that the Air Accident Investigation Branch has gone into relatively quickly. This is the initial report, and it's a very early preliminary assessment, but great detail. We know, for example, that the cockpit voice recorder has been recovered and listened to. We know that they've got the flight data recorder, the so-called black boxes on board the plane. But just look at what they're saying here. In this report, they say at approximately 600 feet and 2 miles away from the end of the runway, the auto throttle demanded an increase in power, but the engines did not respond. Now that's really significant. That means that as it was coming into land, something happened, the auto throttle would have moved the throttles forward, nothing happened. That happened again. So the pilots do what they always do. They push the levers, you know, those levers between the two of them. They push the two of them forward. And look what it says in the report. The flight crew moving the throttle levers, the engines similarly failed to respond. What that means is something was wrong with either the electrical or the mechanical part of the plane that deals with thrust, that deals with the engines and creating of power.
Or were the engines still running as the plane glided into land?
Probably the engines were at idle. They were not getting, we don't know whether they were, we don't know. Well, no, it means they're just going enough to keep it going. But what they needed was thrust. They needed to get the thing back up again or to get it back onto the glide scope. And certainly there wasn't enough thrust to keep the plane coming down at the trajectory of 3 degrees that it should have been coming down. Why is this important? This is important because they don't know what caused that problem.
But they do know it wasn't pilot error, because obviously we wouldn't have seen what we saw today with the big BA press conference and the pilots making this statement.
They pretty much, they're ruling that out, at least at this point. What it says here is they will be examining the range of aircraft systems that could influence engine operation. Well, that's a lot of things. That's fuel delivery, that's electronics, that's avionics. The best analogy that I can give you for what went wrong is the equivalent of a car driver putting your foot on the gas and nothing happening. And that's what happened to those pilots.
And it's way too early to speculate what could cause that, but we're looking at perhaps maintenance, or could there be something possibly wider, a fault in the design?
To go down that road, Fionnuala, would be opening a can of worms in terms of what could be wrong with this plane that no one wants to think about at the moment. The 777, more than 500 in service, extremely successful, but you are looking now at maintenance, you're looking at mechanical failure, and ultimately you're looking at design. And nobody wants to go down that road. But they will do. Boeing, the NTSB of the US, the Air Accident Investigation of the UK, Rolls-Royce, who made the engines, the Trent engines on this plane, they will all be wanting to know. And it won't be a blame game, this. It's not going to be it's your fault, pass the parcel. They're going to get to the bottom of this.